Welcome to Quarantine with Styles, aka Driving with Styles. It's a special broadcast today. Got my boy TB on the line with me. Um, as you guys know, there's some circumstances that might turn this. There's no might. This broadcast is gonna turn a little bit more from a sports talk to a combination. There's just too much going on for me to omit the elephant in the room. And my boy TB has been spitting straight fire for a long time. TB, here's the funny thing about it, man. We've been boys for a while, but we have never met in person.
No, not yet. That's crazy.
And we feel like
You know,
I feel like we're brothers, but man, we have never met in person. That shows the quality of the guy TB is, because if you know me, I'm pretty, my circle is tight. So what's going on, TB?
not a whole lot. Like I said, I've been busy. I've been posting. I've been doing different things. I actually did an interview with the Huffington Post earlier today, so I'm all over the place, man.
Huffington Post, how did that swing out?
Well, there's a national writer of the Huffington Post, Travis Waldron, who's actually from Louisville, and our paths crossed on Twitter. You're just talking about, not being able to meet in person, but meeting people. And he wrote a beautiful piece when Muhammad Ali passed away,
Okay.
talking about how Louisville was then, how it is now, what he represented. And we had good interactions, and we've been interacting ever since. And he sent me a message this morning, said, "Hey, I'd like to set up a phone call. Let's talk about some things." So that should post tomorrow. So we'll see.
Man, you doing big things, man. Doing big things. That's crazy, man. But one thing that gets me is you often talk about your dad, man, and the things that he had to go through being a cop, which I had no idea. The thing that stands tall to me right now is the fact that you said at one time he could not arrest a white person.
Right. My dad joined the Louisville City Police Department in 1962. And when he joined, black officers could not arrest white people. Even if you saw them come out of a bank, cash in hand, all they could say was, "Do you mind waiting?" So to go through that, he sued him, and another gentleman by the name of Shelby Lanier sued the Louisville City and the police department for discrimination in 1973.
Wow.
And they were victorious with that. And that changed a lot of the policies and everything with the department. And when he retired in 1993, two, three, one of those, 1993, I believe, he was assistant chief of police. So just looking at his career from not being able to arrest a white person to, bossing around just about everybody on the department, it was just kind of a huge, just looking at his career was just let you know that change can take place, and that's
Right.
what gives me heart. That's why I talk and do the things I do, because change can come, but you really have to work at it.
Right. That's the change that I hope will come. And for me, I know you have girls. It's a little different, but for me, I have a boy, and I'll never forget the time my dad had to sit me down, and it's numbing right now, because at the time you do think, "Dad, come on, dude, what are you talking about?" To sit down with me one day, and I can see the tears well in his eyes, and I never understood it until now. I have a son, and naive, he goes to predominantly white private school, and he thinks the world is at his feet, which hopefully so. But I'm gonna have
Right.
to have that talk with him too, and
Hmm.
it's scary, man, that I have to sit down with my son, and you can't, you know, totally shield him from all the news. But I have to sit down with him and tell him, "Man, look, this are the things that you have to do to survive. I want you to come home alive. I don't care what happens. You get arrested, you have to go to jail. Just come home alive. Let me deal with all the other things, and then as long as you come home with me, we're all good." So what was that talk that your dad had with you, being that he's in the force?
And that's the funny thing, and that's what I tell people all the time is sometimes folks outside of the Black community kind of make fun of that talk, like you're talking about with your son, like your dad had to have with you, like, oh, y'all are just, that doesn't really happen, but it does happen. And I want to tell people it's so powerful because that's exactly what my dad told me. He's the assistant chief of police, and I start driving, right?
Right.
And he tells me, look, whatever happens out there, I can fix it, but you just have to come home.
Right.
That was always the thing. Exactly what you said is what he said. Whatever else is going on, yes, sir, no, sir. No sudden movements. Right. All that kind of stuff. That's how you have to tell your son, and you were told, I was told, that's how you have to navigate the world. And when you have to do that, when you have to tiptoe around, and you have to, I tell people it's kind of like Bruce Banner, when he's the Hulk, and he has to really work on keeping that anger inside because he doesn't want those consequences. Well, that's what being a Black man is. You're telling your son, hey, you can't just walk around frowning. You can't do that. Right. You can't raise your voice. Right? You can't do that. And so you have to internalize all that. And if you look at the CDC website and you look at life expectancy, your white female is 82. Okay. And then it goes all the way down. And at the very bottom, just breaking 70 is Black males. Wow. And there's a 5-year gap between Black males and white males.
Wow. We
just now crossed that 70-year-old life expectancy that everybody else had in 1975. So it's more than just the police brutality and all that. That's part of it. Right. But it's society that we have to internalize it, and there's long-term consequences for that.
Exactly. And that's, I get it all the time because, like I say, in my high school class, I went to a small school. It was 77 of us, and there was only 5 of us that was brown. And I'm often asked, what can we do? And I tell them all the time, it is empathy. It's hard for me to tell you, and it's hard for you to understand what I go through. And we, as Black men, we are always internalizing a lot of things that happen to us. We keep it internal. We don't let it go. And just listen. Be able to understand as much as you can. But the biggest thing you can do for me is just listen. Listen to where I'm coming from. Have an open mind and say, okay, I don't need you to solve my problems, but just be there to be like, okay, I understand. Now, what can we do? Now, if you ask, what can we do? Now we are moved to something. Don't be on the defensive. Don't be on the defensive when you're asking me a question. Well, that's not true. Well, you haven't walked in my shoes. I mean,
right.
Why would I lie to you? I mean, it's like, I never forget. I can say this now. I was the best athlete at the school at the time in school history. Now, I'm coming from practice at night because in track, I had to do a lot of events. So I'm coming home late at practice, about 9 o'clock or something, 8 o'clock maybe. And cop pulls me over, said I rolled through the stop sign. I'm like, dude, are you serious? Flashlight and all. Now, he didn't have the gun drawn, but flashlight and all. Now, when I went back to school and told the people, I got stopped. No, that couldn't happen. You had to not stop at the stop sign. Really? You really don't understand that he could just pull me over because I'm a Black guy in a neighborhood that's predominantly white, at a predominantly white school at 8:30 at night when school ends at 3:15? You really? You think
Right. No, it's look, let's just say not every white person is racist. Okay, no. We get that. But every Black person I've talked to, everyone has a story just like you said. Every one of us has a story like that. If they're 90, and those people have some stories, yes. Okay, but even I bet if you really quizzed your son, there was something where his spider sense was tingling in a situation that said, hey, this isn't right. You've always got to have your guard up. And I want to tell people, I wish I didn't have to look for situations like that. But the situations always seem to find you. So I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah,
I'm right there.
It's not. This is what I don't think people understand. Really, is that what's going on in Minnesota, and this is how you know it's serious. This incident happened in Minnesota, but there's protests all over the country in all the big cities, pretty much.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because when you hold, just like you having a kid, you let your kid get away with stuff, you let your kid get away with stuff, which you shouldn't, but you let them get away with it, and then you start to boil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the next incident, whatever it is, takes you over the top. And that's what this is. People don't understand. This is pent up anger because things that we know. We just saw this guy. I know the headlines say he knelt on his shoulder, on his head, and all this stuff. He murdered the guy. I mean, how you saw this on tape? He murdered the guy, and we're trying to sugarfoot around it. It's murder. I don't know how else you can say it. It's murder, and now you don't understand the anger and the angst that's going through the community. That, man, this guy murdered him, and he hasn't been charged. He was fired, which was the fastest I've ever seen anything happen. But that fire means nothing. We all know that a cop can get another job at another department easily.
All the time.
All the time. Just like
the
teachers.
Next town over.
Exactly. And it's like, I don't understand that, we should be happy that he got fired. No, we're not happy. We want justice. And if they would have, in a simple thing, I told a friend of mine this Thursday, if they would arrest the cops, and arrest means they just shackle him, fill a report, he can post bail and be at home that night. Just show the community that you are moving forward with an arrest. A lot of this wouldn't have happened.
Oh, absolutely. That's the frustration. And what I try to tell my white friends is incidents don't just happen in a vacuum. Like, you can't just look at the one case, Mr. Floyd in Minnesota, and just look at it like this. You can't zoom in on it. Things build up, like you're saying. It's an incident here. It's, you got stopped rolling through a stop sign. I've been stopped. I've been harassed. We've seen the police come into our communities and do things they wouldn't do in their own communities. And it just builds up. The perfect example is the O.J. Simpson case. Okay. O.J. did that. All right. Let's just be honest. But the reaction for most Black people was like, okay, we got one.
Right.
After Emmett Till, that case, after the Central Park Five, and that case, after all these cases of miscarriages of justice that we've had to endure, we got one for us. Right. And what happened? Everybody got mad. So when you look at these incidents, it's just little things that build up. And the biggest thing is, look, I could have someone, if the Klan came marching, and I'm gonna inward this, inward that, okay. But it's the little things that add up. It's, you get stopped. Hey, where are you going? Well, you can't ask me that. It's, you go into a store, that's that second look. It's, you're walking down the street and people like this. I'm starting to run through the neighborhood now. And luckily I've had some good interactions, but at the very beginning, it's, people looking through the blinds like this here. It's little things that you just have to, those little microaggressions, they call them, that just build up. So, if somebody slights you just a little bit, going back to your point, you're already here.
Yes.
That little thing takes you to here. And it's like, well, why are you reacting like that? Because this has been building up, in my case, for 42 years.
Right.
It just builds up. And then it just erupts. That's what we're seeing with these communities.
Right. Why are Black men angry? That's why, dude, you don't, I would just say this. When I was in high school, I went through the David Duke running for governor. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So KKK, highs up, Grand Wizard running for governor. And I had guys who was older than me. That was my junior year, I think, and the seniors in that year were so pro David Duke. They were wearing this apparel, all this merchandise, had it on the books. And these guys, some of these guys are my offensive linemen, some of these guys on defense with me. And the angst during that time was incredible. You could slice it with a butter knife. And people don't understand. And I had this talk today. I wish that all of America could experience the college athletic locker room. Because the one thing about the college athletic locker room is you cannot hide. Different backgrounds, different races, different religions, all different beliefs. You cannot hide. You have to face it face to face, one on one. And even though you might have a circle outside of football or outside of basketball that might be like-minded like you, when you cross that door in that building, it all changes. And right. I've learned, and we all say players come back. I've never knew a black guy until I came here. My sister had a situation where her teammate actually said color. And she had no idea. It was like just off the tongue. Color. She's from a town in Arkansas that she's never seen a black person face to face. Nicest girl ever. And she had no idea. And I just wish we all had that situation of being confronted with something, because we all have a common goal. And you have to face it. You have to deal with it, because if not, you won't win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's part of all this too, is when you're the minority group like we are. See, and I try to explain this. Look, full disclosure, I was married before, divorced now, but my first wife, she was white. And so I had to explain to her that when you are the majority, everything is catered to you, right? And it's just simple things like she had never heard of the movie Friday, which should have been a red flag. But, well, yeah. But she didn't know Friday, but I knew Titanic. I knew of Titanic, right? And so she hadn't heard of Living Single, but she'd heard of Friends.
Right.
So when you're in the minority, you've got to know your culture, but you've also got to know the broader culture. But if you're part of the big, you don't need to know. You know, I forget who it was that was talking about, Black Twitter, which is one of my favorite parts of Twitter. Who is someone that's Black famous that white people don't know about?
Oh.
And the consensus was like Frankie Beverly and Maze. Like, I don't know any Black person that doesn't have an auntie or an uncle put it on and go see Frankie Beverly and Maze. But you could say that to most white people, and they're not going to have any idea who you're talking about.
Gary Owens, I would know.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's great. And that's like, I used to get into conversations all the time in school. And this is the defensive nature. Like, why do y'all have Miss Black America? Why y'all have historically Black colleges? Why y'all have, what are y'all trying to separate? It's like, I'm like, you don't understand. Learn the history of it. We couldn't win. Now, we all know Vanessa Williams was the first, but that's the first. That was in the 90s. Or late 80s. It's like, come on.
And that's the thing, too, is, of course, why is there, you all get BET? And I'm like, but you got CBS, ABC, NBC, and Fox. Like, I mean,
right. MTV.
Right. And you go back to a show like Friends, set in New York City, the most diverse place on the planet, and it wasn't even a non-white character in the background. That doesn't jive. That doesn't make any sense, right? And it's just little things that you notice if you are Black that you just say, come on, man. Come on.
And it's a knockoff of In Living Single.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
But that show is a cult figure for us, but not a cult figure for a cult show for the masses.
Absolutely. And that goes back to what, with all this friction that we're seeing right now is America wants to consume Black culture, but they don't want anything to do with Black people.
Yeah.
And when you see what's the trends, Black people have been setting the trends since Little Richard, God rest his soul, invented rock and roll.
Right.
Okay. We have been the driving force behind so much, but yet when it comes time to help us, they don't want to do that, you know? And that's the frustrating part for us is, like in your situation, like, okay, you can cheer me on Friday nights and Saturday, right? We can cheer the touchdowns, we can cheer the dunks, but when your community's hurting, you know, y'all will figure it out.
Right.
That's the frustrating part is when athletes speak out, it's stick to sports. You say we're not going to stick to sports tonight, but stick to sports where we're comfortable.
Right.
But you look at the history of America and Black Americans, because the athletes have been at the forefront, they've been the drivers of change. Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Bill Russell, Jim Brown, those people laying that foundation where we kind of expect the Black athlete to do like LeBron's doing and kind of step up and do things. So you're saying shut up and dribble. We don't have that luxury.
Right.
Like, it would be easy for LeBron just to be focused on basketball, right? It would be easy, you know, for the Chris Pauls, you know, the easiest thing in the world for Colin Kaepernick to have done is just shut up and play football.
Facts.
He'd still be playing football right today.
Facts.
Because they bringing dudes off the couch right today. And, you know, I see so-and-so got signed. I'm like, well, who is that?
Right.
It's harder to stand up and say what's right. That's the difficult thing.
Right.
That's the hard thing to do.
Exactly. But people understand. I like I said, the high school I went to, I love my high school. I love it. It made me a man before I got to college because of the situation I had to deal with. Like you said, I was the athlete. I was the first D1 signee there ever in history at that time, and the fans love me. I'm a good kid, and but it's funny, like you said, they are cheer for you on Friday, but if their daughter like you, all hell breaks loose. Oh no, there's no way. Who?
Guess who's coming to dinner?
Right, dude. It's like, but I'm fine. You like me as a person, great individual. But if I had to date your daughter, no. And not because I'm a bad person. It has nothing to do with my character, my integrity, my morals. It has to do with just one thing. And it's like, really? But I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread in all other situations. But in this situation, I can't let it happen. And it's weird. People don't understand. That's demoralizing. I never forget, we had Sadie Hawkins and this girl's supposed to ask me out, and it's like all over school, blah, blah, blah. And it didn't happen. I'm like, whoa, what didn't happen? Well, talk to my parents. But I know your parents. It's like, are you serious? Is that where we going?
Yeah. And that's the kind of situation where, like I said, they everybody wants to consume Black culture, but nobody really want to be Black.
No.
Right. Yeah. And Chris Rock, and I think comedians kind of have this view where they can see things differently. Chris Rock said in one of his specials that right today, not one white person would trade places with him, and he was rich.
Right.
Because you just never know.
You never know.
And that's the mindset that you have to tell your son. I got to tell my girls, that has been going on for generations. Like there's a certain level you can reach. You were the first D1 athlete at your school. They singing your praises on Friday night, but you know, dance on Saturday as something completely different. like that's a wrap.
That's not gonna happen.
Right. So that's the frustration, and that just builds into that stuff that we internalize. Like, at what point can we earn your respect? And that's what we're seeing across the country. Please recognize our humanity.
and that's the exactly. And here's the issue for me, and I say this all the time. See, I don't mind the Joe or the Karen of the world having their certain viewpoint. My problem is when the teacher, when the police department, when the CEO or the manager, when those are the people who can affect our lives. They can affect our ability to move up in a company. They can affect our education. They can affect them seeing a reference, a good referral, et cetera, et cetera. Those, we have too many people, and this is like, I don't know if you saw the wrestling coach who was saying that I can breathe. He had his own children, his son put his knee on his, and he
Oh
said, "Oh,
yeah, I
I
saw
can
that
still
clip.
breathe." Like, he's coaching young men. We all know how much coaches have an effect on people, on young men. He has that responsibility, and he has these viewpoints. It's like the teachers who have viewpoints where black kids are not as smart. I had that at my school, or et cetera, et cetera. I don't care about the guy who works at Walmart or the guy who works at Jiffy Lube. We got to understand that there are teachers, there are principals, there
Mhm.
are police chiefs, there are doctors that have these viewpoints that affect our lives day to day.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying. Like the guy in the white hood marching down the street, inward this, inward that. Okay, I can deal with that guy. But the person you're talking about is like that Amy Cooper up in New York with Christian Cooper. You know, he's bird watching. She's got her dog off the leash. You know, we've all seen it. And those are the people. She will tell you she's not racist.
She will say she's not.
She will say that she's not. She probably, to quote Get Out, probably would tell you, "I voted for Obama twice, and I'd vote for him again."
Right. Yes.
Right? The issue is that I'm trying to work through with some of my white friends is you all think, and I'm saying you all generally think that racist people, it's only down south,
Oh,
it's only uneducated people, it's only poor people. No, no, no.
right.
The most segregated cities in America, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Boston, Massachusetts, the most racist people are Harvard educated. They are the hiring managers at these companies. Like going back to your, they're the people in charge. When you look at what that Amy Cooper was doing and the role she was in, VP of whatever, how many times did she go to HR on a black person and just say, "Oh, Joe just gives me a bad. He's not a team player." You know, when it came time to move somebody up in the role, "Oh, LaQuisha, no, I something about her I just don't like." Those are the things that keep us from getting to where we want to be. You know, that's the frustrating part is I know not all white people are racist, but there's enough of them in those positions where you got to have your guard up all the time.
All the time. Or here's the worst part. Or they see these resumes and they see the names like, oh nope, it's a black person. Scratch them off. If the world doesn't believe that happens, trust me.
There've been studies that have backed that up, and there was an article I read. There was a black guy. No, I'm sorry, he was a white guy, and his name was Deshaun. And I need to find it. I'll post it on social media. But it was his thing. Like, you know, he'd send his resume in, and then he'd walk in, and they would be surprised, like, "You're Deshaun?"
I'm the same because my name is Van. I've done that so many times. Wait, you're Van? Hold on.
Right, right. So that's a real thing that black folks have to deal with.
Right. Yeah, I just don't get it. Sorry guys, I got some tweets. Let me see if I can read these TV. FYTB Caliber tweeted a statement a few minutes ago. You never see two Irishmen from beating the hell out of Italian guy in Birmingham just because. That's true. I just say, man, it's scary. I just want people to, before we move on to a UK talk, and I let you go because I know you're busy. I just want people to be open-minded. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Just be open-minded. Be able to virtually step in my shoes and see my point of view. You might not totally agree with it, but be able to at least be open to it, because there are some things in my life that I've been through that I've held in that I won't tell anybody because it's so messed up. And I turned 45 this year. It's not like that. Like my dad. My dad is really my grandfather's brother. I guess my great uncle would be the best term. Was NAACP leader in Woodville, Mississippi. And God rest his soul, he used to tell us stories that they had to shoot out of their meetings because KKK was waiting for them. Shoot out of a meeting. I mean, guns are blazing, bullets coming through. Can you? And this is like 50s. Like, this guy fought in World War II and then come back and he's just a dude again.
And that's the frustrating part is there's so many stories that your great uncle told you. They're not in any book somewhere, right?
Right.
Like people can't find this stuff. But if you talk to an older Black person, and I urge people to do this all the time, find you a Black person 70 or above. They're still here. Man, they've been through some stuff that you would not believe. Like you would say to yourself, "There's no way that happened."
Right. Exactly.
And it's in things like the Tulsa Race Massacre, that was in the Watchmen TV show that a lot of people thought they had made up.
Dude, I've been talking about that for years because that's not taught in books.
No, my dad taught me that back in the 80s, 90s.
Right.
He got some stuff like, look, and it's one of those things. Again, it goes back to it's not just one incident that sets off a powder keg. It's the Tulsa race riots. It's all the lynchings. It's all the towns that got burned. It's all the bombings in Birmingham. It just builds up because those things happen and nobody's brought to justice.
No, and it's not. I mean, that the Tulsa race riots, if people don't understand, it's really scary because for me, as a Black man, not having history really, not having anything to hold on to, Tulsa is something to hold on. Little Black Walls or Black Wall Street is something to hold on to because it proves that we as Black people can thrive, can form our own educational system, own hospitals, own restaurants. I can't remember, for every dollar, like 80 cents was spent right back in the city. It was something crazy. And we were thriving. And the only reason why it got basically bombed is because they didn't want us to be successful. That's the only reason. It was a pure, they're doing too well out there and we're white, not doing well. Jealousy, let's put it under.
And that goes back to, I've been posting so much stuff that talk about rioting. Why are you rioting? And rioting's not the answer. The response to that is Black people, since we were brought to these shores, have tried every other method to have our grievances addressed, right? When slavery came around, we had to fight a war, you said that you didn't want us to live with you, so we formed Black Wall Street, we formed these little towns, and you bombed them and burned them to the ground. We marched peacefully, and you let the fire hoses and the dogs on us. So at some point, it's not the method of our protest. You just don't like what we're saying. That's what I'm getting out of a lot of this stuff. And the way folks have been misquoting and misusing MLK, he was very on point that, the riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it you're not hearing from the Black community, right? And I don't know if you've seen Bernice King and Martin Luther King III on Twitter. They ain't got time for people misusing their fathers.
No.
They don't got time for it. And because I'm tired of people using his quotes about love and peace. They only know about 1% of what he said, right? He said a lot more than just "I had a dream." He had a lot more to say. Yeah, he said so much more about breaking this country down and forming something better. But you don't hear those little sound bits, right? It's all about you got to love and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, he said that, but he also said, white America, we are coming to cash a check that you wrote. That's what he said. I'm coming to get the check that you can. I'm coming. That's what he said. And for all these people holding Martin Luther King up, keep in mind, he was still shot like a dog in the street.
Exactly. We have a caller, Dave. Welcome to the show. Can you hear me? Dave? Well, I don't know if you can't hear us, but like I said, before I have to let you go, TB, we can talk about this all day.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
UK football. I just read that I'm gonna say his name wrong. Barrett Sallee, and had us at 6-6, 2-6 in conference. Athlon has us at 7-5. Why do you think the respect factor is not what it should be for Coach Stoops, who has built a program that should be respected?
I will say it's laziness. It's easy to go with some names that you know, and Kentucky not being a name hurts. But if you look over the past 4 or 5 seasons in the SEC East in particular, whose program is better than Kentucky? There's Georgia, but I would put it even with Florida. I would put it, Tennessee. I think we're better than. We haven't beat them head to head, but I put Kentucky better than Tennessee. South Carolina won for the first time in 6 years this past season. Vanderbilt, Missouri, and who else am I missing? Is that everybody? But the point is, Kentucky's better than those programs. You beat Mississippi State this past year. I don't know what it's going to take for people to finally give the Cats their due, but as my dad used to say, the proof of the pudding's in the eating. On the field, the Cats are handling their business. One thing I don't think Stoops gets enough credit for is building a successful program at Kentucky, but a program that's had some huge losses that he's been able to recover from. Like last year, I'm in Louisville, right here in the belly of the beast for our rivalry. Oh, Stoops won with a backup quarterback. No, Stoops won with a 4th quarterback that he had to convert from wide receiver and totally flip the offense in 2 weeks, and still was successful with it.
That's what I'm trying to tell people. It's frustrating. It's like having a quarterback, as you said, 4th string quarterback, is seen as a negative now. It's weird that would be seen as a negative. Oh, you're losing your. It's like they're saying like we're losing our best quarterback in school history, dude. Our coaches are just that good. It's just our coaches are that good, and our players are that smart on offense to adjust. It's weird, man. I'm 6-6. Like what? We 18 games in 2 years. And the funny part about it that hurts me, really hurts me, is Florida. Last year we should have beat Florida. Now I know shoulda, coulda, but I'm just saying, talent on the field is not what it was in the 90s when I was playing. We should have beat Florida last year. We beat Florida in the swamp the year before. The year before that, we gave them 2 touchdowns with nobody going their receiver. Now, the year before that, they skull drugged us. But remember the year before that, though, they gave that extra time in overtime. So it's like 4 out of the last 5 years, we have stood toe-to-toe and should have won 4. We should be, don't give them that one. We should have won the last 3.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, to me, just like you said, Dan Mullins is working miracles at Florida. People understand that roster is not old Florida. That's not Steve Spurrier Florida. It's a little different. I keep telling people all the time, if you look at the recruiting, the top people in Florida are not going to Florida. Mm-hmm. They're not even staying in state. They're going to Georgia, South Carolina, Bama. So we are right there. So to me, it's mind-boggling. We won 10, they thought we was going to have a down year. We went 8 with a receiver quarterback. Oh, they're going to have another down year. To 6? When we got the whole team pretty much coming back? Doesn't make sense.
And that's the thing I've always said about Kentucky football. We've had dudes. Back when you played, before that, Kentucky's had dudes. The problem is we haven't had enough dudes.
Right.
And if you're going to be successful in the SEC, I don't mean to preach to you. I know you know this intimately, but there's always that 3 to 4 game stretch in the SEC where it's 3 to 4 games. You are going to have to bring your A game every single game. And if you don't have enough dudes, you just get worn down, and that's what's happened. Well, you look at the depth chart that Stoops has now, and you say next man up. Okay, next man up. The defense this year, or this past season, was better than the previous year after losing Josh Allen.
And this season is going to be the best defense on paper ever.
Yeah.
Since I've been associated.
Right. And we ran the ball better this past season than we did after Benny Snell left. I mean, at some point, you've got to give Stoops whatever he is selling to the recruits, whatever he's doing in that building is working. Like I said, a couple years ago, Drew Barker goes out. They put Steven Johnson in. Realize they've got Benny Snell on the bench because remember, he didn't do much the first 2 games.
No, Boom. That was Boom's team.
And then next thing you know, here we are, 7-5, beating Louisville as a 28-point underdog. And again, I don't mean to preach to you because you know more about this than I do.
No, preach to everybody else.
If you've got dudes believing in what you're selling as a coach, I said this on Cats Talk Wednesday, this past Wednesday. We like to think for some reason coaches is all about X's and O's. That's part of it. But you've got to get, like you said earlier about the different people in that room, you've got to get all those different people going in one direction. And whatever Stoops and his staff is doing is working. I know you saw the Louisville recruit that smarted off about, I didn't sign to block. And I love that the Kentucky folks said, well, we signed up to win.
Right.
But you look at those receivers, the Ahmad Wagner, the Josh Ali, yeah, they didn't come to run the wing T offense. But if Coach Grant and Coach Stoops says, hey, this is what we're going to do to win, because the only way Lynn Bowden and A.J. Rose and Chris Rodriguez are able to break those runs, your receivers got to hold them blocks, right?
Facts.
And if they don't sacrifice, we don't have the cutback lanes and all that. I'm not X's and O's guys, but I know that. So you've got to have people buying in from Lynn Bowden all the way to your scout team. That's the only way you can do what Stoops has done.
And he is recruiting dogs. He is flat out, as we had on the locker last, we had Reggie Rusk on, and he played when I was playing, and I say all the time, he's the best safety I played with. And we didn't have the dogs. He's recruiting dogs. And that's one thing people have to understand. These guys are coming here to take over. Mm-hmm. This is not like, oh, I'm happy to get a scholarship. Oh, I can't believe I'm playing college football. Oh, I can't believe I'm playing college football in the SEC. No. They're not at that level. They're at the level, we're trying to win this Eastern Division. We're trying to get to the SEC Championship. And not saying it as token, oh, we just trying. No. They believe they can get to the Eastern Conference Championship, or the SEC Championship. And that is huge for us. I never, ever thought that would happen. What he's doing is crazy.
Yeah, a few years ago, a lot of people here in Louisville made fun of, they had that sign at the Nutter facility about the college football playoff. With, had the symbol, had Kentucky on it. Oh, what are you guys doing? And then, verily came to pass that the Kentucky, at that point, we were ranked a step above Ohio State, and we were cruising real good.
Right.
And you've got to set those goals to achieve those goals. And I love that point you just made. These guys aren't just happy to be here.
No.
They ain't just here to win and just to compete. They're here to win. Stoops can now sit down in any recruit's house in the country, Stoops, Vince Marrow, all his staff, and say, look, hey, we coming to compete with the Floridas, Georgias, and Tennessees. And he could point to, hey, had a close call that time. Hey, we're with you on the roster. Hey, we're going to get it this next time. He can sell that. And and it's not a lie.
It's not. And and we have some people from Louisiana. I'm telling you, there's something. When I was recruited, I went to Kentucky as my 4th recruiting trip. I just want to take my 5 trips. That basically, I'm taking my 5 trips. My parents went to every recruiting visit except that one. When I got to Lexington, I didn't even have the best. I'm gonna tell you, all my 5 recruiting trips, that was the worst recruiting trip I had as far as the behind the scenes outside of learning football. And I don't want to incriminate myself. The extracurricular activities were horrible when I went to Kentucky, but everything else was better than everywhere else I went, and it wasn't even close. And I tell you all the time, if you just get these guys to come to Lexington, we have a chance, because there's some about the city, man. I don't know what the draw is. It's a perfect blend of the South and the Midwest. I don't know what it is, but I fell in love with it, and I'm glad I came. I had another school I wanted to go to, but it's just something about it, man. About the city, about the environment, about the people. And you winning 18 games in 2 years. Who else is winning 18 games in 2 years?
That's a short list of dudes. That's a short list of dudes that do that. So I don't know where the disrespect is keep coming from, but keep underestimating, and Kentucky will show up and kick you in the teeth. I mean, that you can underestimate at your own peril at this point.
Like I said, so I got us going 11-1, and I'm holding to that, and I feel really good about this season. We're gonna end on what's your prediction for 2021?
I usually wait till later on in the year, but
just throw out a number.
I can say 10-2, but the difference between now and like a few years ago, 10-2 is like, oh, ain't no way. But
right.
There's just so many games, and here's the biggest thing, and I'll leave you on this, that Stoops and company has brought in that I've noticed on the outside looking in. The margin of victory, the margin of error for Kentucky football is wide.
Yes.
Because back when you played, and before that, right after, y'all had to be perfect.
Yes.
If you were gonna compete with Florida.
Yes.
Like you couldn't no turnovers.
No turnovers. You had to have 5. Hold on. We had 5 picks against Florida and still lost 93.
Right. You had to play a perfect game. And when I'm at the games and you see, we still have the fumbles, we still have the interceptions, and the crowd just kind of, you feel that air come out. The crowd doesn't do that anymore.
No.
Because them dudes come right back. Against South Carolina a few years ago.
Yep.
That's a slugfest. And South Carolina gets the ball back, they driving. Bud Dupree, a man, catches out the air, takes it to the house. Those dudes are ready to make plays. There's no hanging their heads. Nope. There's none of that. That's a complete mind change over what we had where, okay, interception, okay, busted coverage. We can still compete. We can still beat these dudes.
Right.
We can still beat these dudes. So that's a difference I've seen on the outside looking in.
Hey, man, I appreciate you jumping on with me. TB, tell everybody how they can find you, and we'll end on a good note.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. It's at @tbrown_80. That's at @tbrown_80. Don't forget to show me and Vinny Hardy, my partner in crime, do Cats Talk Wednesday. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook, Cats Talk WED in both of those places. And we're live Wednesdays from 6 to 8, but you can find us wherever you find your podcasts.
I appreciate you taking out the time, brother. When you said, can I come on? I was like, come on, man. Are you serious? Let's make this happen.
Absolutely. Always time. Thanks for having me on, man.
Appreciate you, brother.